Oh, Lord have mercy, another coon. Damn coons. I gotta do a coon analysis and a coon screening.
It only takes a little bit of white brainwash to activate the coon chip.
I called Umar Johnson out a couple of times. I think Umar doesn't want a particular debate with me because he knows that will expose him. He'll lose a lot of money debating me.
I had people on my Twitter that live in that particular area going past his, building in real time, still displaying wood up on the windows. It's wooded up.
Who ready to see the windows? Who ready to see the FDMG windows? Because the haters said we didn't have the windows. We've always had windows. Every window had glass windows.
Name me your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents.
If I go back to my grandmother's grandmother, she's supposed to know if her mother was in slavery or not.
I will not be debating Dane Calloway because I only debate my equals. All others I teach. But I would like to know, is he building any institutions for our people?
Now, I know it's probably been a couple of years, but I seen that did you and Dr. Umar ever have a debate? Did you ever have a debate together?
Umar Johnson is afraid of me. Wow. We were supposed to be having a debate, and he backed out.
I'm not debating him. He not on my level. He hasn't achieved in life what I've achieved in life. He don't have my credentials, my accomplishments, or my stature. He is a YouTubian struggle streamer. That man is a YouTubian struggle streamer. That man's only claim to fame is he is a YouTubian struggle streamer. If you think I'm going to take my 6 degrees and my 3 certifications, if you think I'm going to take my 6 degrees and my 3 certifications, if you think I'm going to take my 9 pieces of paper and put it up against a YouTubian struggle streamer with no credentials, no grassroots resume, no history of activism, you're out of your damn mind. Don't test my intellectual gangster. I will never debate a YouTubian struggle streamer unless you paying. $50,000 donation to FDMG, I will gladly conduct an intellectual execution.
And then he came out on a live stream and said, I would not be debating Dane Calloway. And it was hilarious. We were just laughing at it, because of course he was behind the scenes. He was, excuse me, that was my phone ringing. He was behind the scenes talking trash and then getting on his, it's funny. I look at it, it's flattering to me, because he calls himself the Prince of Pan-Africanism, and yet he raised up the white flag. And, it's not the fact that I'm coming after his information per se. I'm not trying to step on his toes, but this is the reason why they started bringing my name up, him and other people like him, because that movement started back in the 1960s. The Pan-African movement, pro-black, blackity, black, black. And they see that it's a lot of our people waking up to, wait a minute, that was a tactic done. That was supposed to be done to switch up our minds off of us being indigenous to this land and other people replacing us, okay? And that goes beyond the $5 Indian term. I'm pretty sure people heard that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. These phones are ringing off the hook now. But anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not trying to, it's not going to be to a point where I'm beefing with the brother. We got, right, real street beef, and it ain't going to be nothing like that. It's just that he took shots. I took shots back. He said he didn't want no smoke. That was it. As far as what he does, I believe he's a character within himself. I don't think he's legit. He's been promising this same school for eons and no results. Like, I had people on my Twitter that live in that particular area going past his, building in real time, still displaying wood up on the windows. It's wooded up.
Who ready to see the windows? Who ready to see the FDMG windows? Because the haters said we didn't have the windows. We've always had windows. Every window had glass windows. We just kept them protected until it was time to open up the school, brothers and sisters. This was not no abandoned building. It wasn't no boarded up building. Ain't no bando. $13 million project 10 years ago. $13 million project 10 years ago. Who ready to see the windows? I'm about to show y'all the windows, brothers and sisters. Let's go see it. Look at the windows. Look at the windows, brothers and sisters. The boards is off. Ifatunde Avenue, the boards is off. Look at the windows, brothers and sisters. Look at the windows. Look at the windows. That's right. That's right. Grand opening coming soon. Grand opening coming soon. Look at the windows, brothers and sisters. Look at them big, beautiful windows, brothers and sisters. Look at the big, beautiful windows on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Look at the big, beautiful windows on the Frederick Douglass. I got to show y'all the other side. I got to show y'all the other side. Look at the big, beautiful windows. Look at the big, beautiful windows on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey. We getting them tinted, brothers and sisters. Well, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at all that glass. Look at all that big glass. We getting them tinted so nobody could look inside.
And I'm like, man, what? I mean, this whole time, where's the money going? But then I thought about it. I mean, where else would it be going? That's how he makes his living. So this is the reason why he came after me, because, yeah, that's I'm stepping on his toes money wise. You know, I mean, inadvertently, it's not like it was directed at him, but yeah, they don't like that.
If you don't want to be black, just get on back. We ain't got to argue about this. You don't come from Africa. I understand. So why don't you take an ancestry test and prove that you don't come from Africa? Why are we playing all these games? Why are we playing all these pretendian games, huh? Pretendian nation. If you don't come from Africa, take a DNA test and prove it. That's all. Anybody come up to you talking about they don't come from Africa, their ancestors, tell them to take a DNA test and prove it. We ain't got to do no theory. We don't need no philosophy. We don't need no reasoning. We have science. We don't need no theories. We don't need no philosophy. We don't need any reasoning. We have science. Roll up your sleeve. In fact, they don't even take blood. You could get a Q-tip and swab the saliva. You could take a saliva DNA test. How much is the African ancestry test, brothers and sisters? How much is the African ancestry test, brothers and sisters? How much is the African ancestry test, brothers and sisters? I want these pretendians to take an African ancestry test. If you don't come from Africa, take the DNA test and prove it, or shut your self-hating anti-African ass up. Take the DNA test or shut up. I'm talking to all pretendians. Take the DNA test or shut the hell up. I'm talking to all pretendians. Take the DNA test or shut your ass up. I don't want to hear from no pretendians who haven't taken the DNA test.
I know a lot of people say DNA. Did you ever take a DNA test? And how do you feel about DNA tests?
A DNA test, okay, here's the thing. Right. Even though there's some similarities between the DNA test dealing with paternal and fraternal DNA tests, but a genealogy DNA test, even though it's conducted the same way, it can only go but so far. When they say genealogy DNA test, they need to tell you your historical genetic makeup, but they're limited to comparing your data with other living people. Okay, so you can't tell somebody's historical genetic makeup by tracing it or comparing it with other living people. That's nothing historical. So it's limited. This is the reason why they give discrepancies, to let people know that it's mainly for entertainment purposes. They hang you a sheet of paper just like how you graduated from school and say, yeah, you related to this person. Of course, they could tell you who you're related to if the person is still living. Of course, swab of the mouth. Those, I'm not saying that technology doesn't exist.
Right.
But the technology is impossible for them to trace back, further back, years back, of deceased people.
Let's go one step further, pretendians. Let's go one step further, pretendians. Let's go one step. Can you please produce this overwhelming amount of literature from pretendian nation that proves y'all don't come from Africa? Here's what I mean. I'm talking to the pretendians right now. Here's what I mean. Native Americans have a large literature. They have libraries full of literature on their culture, spirituality, sociology, way of life. Native Americans left a record of their civilization. You can read and study
Native American civilization. The American African, although it was illegal for us to learn, although it was illegal for us to learn how to read, we left a vast literature of our experience in America. You can read our own words from the 17th century. You can read our own words from the 18th century. You can read our own words from the 19th century. You can read our own words from the 20th century. We have a vast catalog of literature. So let me say this to the pretendians. Y'all were here before we got here, which I agree with, which I agree with, which I agree with. What I disagree with is when you say you didn't come from Africa.
We've been told here in North America that basically all black people from here are from Africa.
Right.
That we were all imported. We were an export of Africa and imported here to America and forced in to be slaves. You are coming, you have done research that shows the contrary, where many of us, not to say that some of us, that didn't happen for some of us, but many of us, matter of fact, the majority of us who are here in North America actually were what was
always
called Native Americans, and the Native American that we have been given to us as the frame of reference is not necessarily the real image of what a Native American looks like. And a Native American actually looks like you and I. And
well, I would say this. The image that they're giving as far as what a Native American looks like right now has been changed. Of course, now they're trying to make it seem as if the Native Americans were of lighter skin complexion. That's not true.
And a mongoloid phenotype.
Well, so please produce the literature of the pretendian nation. Show me the authentic literature of the pretendian people where they say they did not come from Africa. Can I please see that? Can I please see this large repository of pretendian literature that says they claimed they didn't come from Africa? Ain't nobody show me that yet.
This is how you know it was us first, because before it was considered reservations. What were they called? Concentration camps. Before concentration camps, they were called public labor camps.
Labor camp.
Did we see any Native Americans go through so-called slavery? Because that's the land that they're talking about. Were they on the plantations? No. These people are brand new. They just got here. And you can't trace Native American to American Indian by way of paperwork. That's a brand new term that just started in the 1970s. I put that out there too. The first time that you heard the term Native American was from the Native American Party, the Know Nothings, the third largest political party during the time period of the Federalists and the Whigs. They were fighting for rights then, as foreigners. So that's why I tell people to stop calling yourself Native, because that has nothing to do with you. You're indigenous to this land. You're not a visitor.
You won't take a DNA test because that's going to bust your imaginary bubble. The pretendians will not take a DNA test because that's going to bust your imaginary bubble. You don't have no ancient literature of pretendian people claiming they don't come from Africa. You have no ancient literature.
I started using my own money, and started buying congressional records. And then I went further back and started getting colonial documentation. And I started traveling. That's what really sparked it when I started traveling. Like each state, and I don't care, I'm talking about in America, each state is a totally different country. It's just like if we travel to Africa, it's multiple different countries. We just call them states over here.
Right.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, so it's correlation in cultures, but the story's not adding up. So if we have all of this land here, then I started questioning the stuff. That's what happened. I started questioning things. I'm not going to go into it because I'm pretty sure you're going to go into it later, but I started questioning everything. for myself. And I started presenting these questions to my elders, my family members that were living at that time.
Now, let me go to my next point on the Pretendian Army. Let me go to my next point on the Pretendian Army. Let's see this. Let's see how this is going to go. Let me go to my calculator. Let me go to my calculator. I'm only going to keep y'all for a few minutes longer. Hit the Cash App. We got another school to build. Hit the Cash App. Okay, so here we go. You have 4 grandparents. Okay. You got 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, 32 great-great-great-grandparents, 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents. Pretendian Nation, can I ask you a question? Pretendian Nation, can I ask you a question? Pretendian Nation, you have 64 great-great-great-grandparents. You have 64 great-great-great-grandparents. You have 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents. Can you please provide me with a list of the names and birth dates and birthplaces of your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents? You can't do that.
Your ancestors, each generation is multiplied by 4. You got 2 grandmothers and 2 grandfathers. That's difficult. You're going to have to dig up everybody's grave in order to come up with a, proper solution as to, okay, you're related to these people right here. But that's impossible. They can't dig up everybody's grave, at least not without their permission.
You know why you can't do that, Pretendians? Because you don't even know your damn grandparents' names. Most of you can't go back more than 4 generations. Most of you can't go back more than 4 generations. Name me your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents. Name me your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents.
If I go back to my grandmother's grandmother, she's supposed to know if her mother was in slavery or not.
Right.
That's right. Around that same time period, her mother is supposed to know. It's supposed to know. That story would have went down the line, would have been passed down. How come when I go to these, it's not even just my family. I go to these elders and I talk about slavery. They don't know what I'm talking about.
With all due respect, you all are full of shit. Forgive my language, but you're full of shit.
What do you mean slavery? Now, once again, I'm not saying that slavery is fake. I'm saying the slavery that we were told didn't happen the way it did.
You can't even name 8 of them. You can't even name 4 of them. Most of you can't even name 1 of them. And you want me to believe that none of them were from Africa, but you look just like an African.
Now, I heard you talking on a conversation that you were having a conversation with a grandparent or a parent about, their lineage. And, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said that they didn't have a history of slavery or being slaves. Can you
my
talk
grandfather.
about that?
I brought it to my grandfather, and I asked him, I said, "Granddad, have you ever heard of slavery?" He was like, "Boy, what you talking about?" And I broke down to him what slavery was, and he was like, "Nah, that's, with him growing up, he was born in the 1930s. He never experienced that, any form of racism. In fact, his neighbors were white, were Caucasian. And I met them too when I went down there, like where he's from, which is Florence, South Carolina. And I met them, great people. And I just couldn't believe it. That was another reason why it encouraged me to, I believed my grandfather. I just couldn't believe that was the whole thing, where to a point where it's going to probably affect more than one person in that sense, meaning that they won't ever experience racism or ever experience slavery, haven't heard of any of that before. I was encouraged. I was like, you know what? Let me see. Let me see if there's more people out there that will, share these same stories. And come to find out it was. Damn near millions of people are like, nah, my people don't know nothing about slavery.
With all due respect, you all are full of shit. Forgive my language, but you're full of shit.
Now, what I mean by that is when we tell them the stories of us being in chains and shackles and coming off of these so-called slave ships. They never heard of the story before. Like if we came from Africa, like some of my folks was upset that I brought this to their attention. I'm like, yeah, you know, they teaching us that we came from Africa.
None of your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents was African, but you look completely African. Somebody make it make sense. Can somebody make it make sense? None of your 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents was African, but you look exactly like an African. Can we please take the DNA test and shut this shit down today?
Of course, still to this very day, people will fight you tooth and nail to say, no, we African. All because we share some similarities, not necessarily the bloodline.
Can we give can we raise some money so all pretendians can take an African ancestry test? Can we please raise can we please raise the money so all pretendians can take an African DNA test so we can shut this shit down?
Then they go years back beyond the 1800s telling me, nah, they've been here. Like, matter of fact, let's go meet your folks. Here go the grave sites that are still here. Okay, here's the reservations they grew up on, but it wasn't called reservations back then. At that time, it was just plantations. And a lot of people get in the misconception of what a plantation is. Like, we thinking it's just strictly an area where a Caucasian would enlist enslaved people and work in the fields. But a plantation is just what it is. You're planting, you're growing crops. This is a farm. And a lot of our people had farms. And come to find out, a lot of our people had the majority of the lands. We were the landowners and the sharecroppers.
So the Calloway Plantation, also known as the Arnold Calloway Plantation, okay, is set of a historical building and open air museum located in Washington, Georgia. The site was formerly worked by a cotton plantation with slaves of African Americans. The site was owned by Calloway family between 1785 and 1977. However, the family still owns a considerable amount of acreage surrounding the Calloway plantation. When the plantation was active, it was a large size, owned several hundred slaves. Okay, so let me tell y'all something. Now they got one in Virginia, Washington D.C. area where Dane at, and then they got one in Georgia. Okay, but today we gonna specifically deal with the one in Washington, in Virginia area, nigga, cause that's where you got the name from. Okay, okay.
And that's North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia is where my family's from. And then they moved to Virginia, Maryland. Well, yeah, Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. It was, of course, it was called the city of Washington prior to it being called the Washington, D.C. or Washington, for that matter. That's nothing but Maryland, mainly. And if we go further back in the 1700s, it was nothing but Virginia. It was called the colony of Virginia. And my family has the records tracing back to that time period.
Man, show something before the 1800s. Here your dumb ass go, you was a slave, nigga. That's what you was. You know what I'm saying? That's what you was. Okay? And so here go the one right here. The one in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia, or whatever. You see what I'm saying? The slave masters of the Calloway plantation. Okay? And so, let me go. So right here is more than likely a relative of Dane Calloway. Okay? It's more than likely of a relative of him. But he's a slave to the people I'm about to show you. Okay? He's sitting on the Calloway plantation right there in the area that he in. That Dane is in. So more than likely, when you look in the goddamn, the slave census and shit, from the 1700s, I bet you Mr. Walter is in there. Okay? In his own family. That's why he hiding this shit, bro. Now you look right here. This right here, is Zachary Calloway. That was in the Revolutionary War. There was a war vet in 1749 and 1886. You know what I'm saying? So look right here. Look who it is, though. You see what I'm saying? Look, bro. Now, Virginia, Calloway, you see what I'm saying? White people. Okay, now look right here. Then these are the people that own the Calloway plantation over the years. These is Dane Calloway family members, period. You see, he the one, he the black, so he the slave.
I specialize in investigative research on history in America.
He is a YouTubian struggle streamer.
And I've been sharing my research and discoveries and videos of various formats on my Dane Calloway YouTube channel.
That man is a YouTubian struggle streamer.
I got one more piece for the Pretendian Nation. When are you going to build a community for the Pretendians? I don't see none of these Pretendians doing anything for the Pretendian community. Ashe? Has anybody seen any Pretendians trying to build a school? Has anybody seen any Pretendians trying to open up a bank? Has anybody seen any Pretendians trying to build a supermarket? Has anybody seen any of the Pretendians trying to open up a hospital? Have you seen the Pretendians trying to get some land from the government or buy some land? Has anybody seen any Pretendians doing anything except intellectually masturbating on YouTube? I'm going to ask you again. Have you seen any of these I'm not from Africa Negroes? Have you seen any of these I'm not from Africa Negroes building anything except YouTube pages? I don't see them doing nothing. All I do is see them on YouTube trying to convince proud African people that they're not from Africa. That's all I see. That's all I see. Where is the community for the Pretendian people? If somebody is a Pretendian, how can they educate their kids? Do y'all have a Pretendian curriculum yet? Is there a Pretendian curriculum for parents to educate their kids? Do y'all have a bank? Do y'all have any health care? Can y'all employ? I don't see no infrastructure for the Pretendian Nation.
I'm the author of numerous educational books and various articles on this subject. And I'm currently in the process of producing films on these subjects as well. So it will allow the public to be cognizant of the indigenous people of America who are misclassified as black or African Americans that truly built America into what it is today.
All I see is YouTube struggle streamers. All I see is Pretendian YouTubian struggle streamers.
Now, are you denying that the Middle Passage or the transatlantic slave trade never happened?
No. I'm not denying the Middle Passage, and I'm glad you said Middle Passage, because that's what it was originally called. Right. No, I'm not denying it. It was just told differently. Okay, like in other words, they're trying to tell us that it was people that came from Africa to the Americas when it actually happened the opposite direction. There were other societies out called like the Kansas Colonization Society, for example. Eventually, there were a lot of missionary groups that got together and say, hey, it's a Negro problem going on right now. It's too many of these Negroes out here. We got to get rid of them. We got to move them elsewhere. I mean, what could we do? Could we get with some folk that has some land available where it's not a big population over there we could transfer some of these people to? When the missionaries came over here by way of the Congregation for Propagating the Gospel in Foreign Parts, one of their main duties was to inform people over here by way of religion that they were not supposed to be living here. So it was a lot of priests and pastors and chiefs that got involved with the American Colonization Society and encouraged 13 to 15,000 people to move to the coast of West Africa and populate places like Liberia, for example. But yeah, it wasn't a lot of us. The Africans in large numbers came way later in the 1900s.
I disagree with that logic. It is historically incorrect. It is anthropologically incorrect. It is biologically incorrect. It is genetically incorrect. It is ancestrally incorrect. African people are the first people on the planet Earth. And every other human family, except possibly the European, descends directly from us. If we do not leave Africa, no other race evolves from us. We would still be the only people on this planet if we never left Africa. For those who say we were in America before slavery, they are correct. We were in America before slavery because we were everywhere before slavery. We're the oldest people. We were on the planet by ourselves for tens of thousands of years before any other race evolved from us. So we're the first people in America. We're the first people in the Caribbean. We're the first people in Europe. We're the first people in Asia. So yes, we were here. When you read the diaries of Christopher Columbus, he talks of seeing African people, black skin, woolly hair, just like the ones he saw in Africa. Let us remember that Christopher Columbus did not discover. Christopher Columbus spent time in West Africa, and if memory serves me correctly, he spent approximately 2 weeks in the Elmina slave dungeon, during which time he was given a map that showed him how to get over to the so-called New World.
Were the pale faces speaking when he went to Africa to speak with so-called Africans? What language were they speaking?
Right.
How were they able to communicate?
Right.
To capture millions of Africans? And we talking about warriors now. Not no just, oh, come and get me. Warrior.
Marketeer.
And you gonna capture them with no problem? And it's just a few of y'all? That don't add up to me.
Right, right.
He was educated about the 3 major currents that flow from the West African coast over to North America, South America, and then the Caribbean. And so all he had to do was catch the sea current to the direction that he wanted to go. Oh, yes, he had several Africans who were on board with him. And of course, absolutely. And some people would call them Moors, but Moor means black, you know, so we also have to pay attention to all these different names that they give to African people to try to make us think they were not African people. But yes, he had African people who were there with him. And he took the 3rd current, the bottom current, that brought him to the Caribbean islands. So it was not a mistake. It was not an accident. It was not a discovery. He was simply following the instructions that were given to him by Africans who had already circumnavigated the planet. We were the first people on the ocean. You know, yes, it's true. The Portuguese had a golden age of maritime science, and the Chinese had a golden age of maritime science. But people forget that the Africans were the first with a golden age of maritime science, because if we were not the first in shipping, how did we get all around the world? Because we definitely did not swim. So getting back to your question, we were here before Columbus. So yes, you have pre-Columbian Africans in America. You have post-Columbian Africans in America. The issue that we have with brothers and sisters who are miseducating our children and our people, telling them that they didn't come from Africa, is the fact that everybody came from Africa. And it is ridiculous for the people who look the most like Africans to be the only ones in the world who would dare say we don't come from Africa.
Do they even have, I heard they don't have any evidence of the ships at all.
Of course not. Of course not. And a lot of these slave trade stories was told, like the transatlantic slave trade, for example. The transatlantic slave trade used to be originally known as the Middle Passage.
The Middle Passage, yes.
The Middle Passage was created by the godfather, what they call the godfather of anthropology. He's a German by the name of Franz Boas, Franz Boas.
Franz Boas.
Yes, he's the person. He's the top anthropologist that started the anthropology, #1 in America. He started anthropology in America, coming from Germany. And he also created the out of Africa theory. He's known for both of those. And his student that made it go viral was also a German immigrant, and his name is Melville Herskovitz, Melville. Herskovitz is Herskovitz. These are the 2 people that created that story and made, and Melville Herskovitz got funded by a lot of organizations during the top of the 1900s, during Woodrow Wilson's era, in order to push that into the educational system in order for us to learn about it. That was also during the time period prior to African studies being created in white school. That's number one. So we know where the direct connect is because that came before it was invented in schools or brought or cultivated in schools. So now we know the direct connect or who created it. Franz Boas and Melville Herskovits, they created that story. And not everybody falling for it because they changed the names every time. Once you change the name, it changed the story. And it's almost like they do it every generation. They got to keep up that same narrative. You know what I mean? And it's actually have we been fed this? We just got fed this information in the 1950s. We just got this information in the 1950s. We started calling ourselves Black in the 1960s. And that wasn't even on the census record.
Oh, we all come from Africa, but we can't get distracted by this type of propaganda and incorrect rhetoric because we've always had to deal with this as American Africans and throughout the diaspora. You know, when you look at the Honorable Marcus Garvey and after his deportation from America in 1927, many of the organizations who came after Garvey also propagated to our people that they were not African. All due respect to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he taught our people that they were not African, that they were Asiatics. All due respect to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he taught our people that they were not African, that they were Asiatics. So we have a history of Black leaders coming before our people and basically distracting them from their Africanity.
500 videos and you only got you know what a damn YouTubian struggle streamer? They asses are struggling for views. And they can't keep my name out their mouth because whenever they mention my name, they get the most views. YouTubian struggle streamer.
Hey, look at Umar Johnson. Ain't he using Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey? He's using their name. That don't mean that they were a part of it. You're only going to latch on to people that they put out in the forefront because they made them popular. That's it. It's not because they did anything for you individually. What did Marcus Garvey do for us? Seriously, what did Harriet Tubman do for us? Seriously, the real talk. You can get mad all you want. What did these people do?
Set it on fire, fire, fire.
The only person that I can see that actually tried, excuse me, was Malcolm X.
I need an address to the Pretendian Cherokee Nation, the Pretendian Choctaws. Where is your land? Where is your institutions? Where is your army? You're telling our people to stop being African and come be a Pretendian, and you don't even have a damn hot dog. Can they get a hot sausage with some relish and sauerkraut from your ass? No, brothers and sisters, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm trying to read the word.
I gave those people an opportunity to come debate me. You know, they wanted to claim that we're all from Africa and all the rest of this little ideologies they wanted to crowd around that, you know, gained steam during the 1960s. I called all of them out, and they ran away. I'm talking about those that have big platforms, the Umar Johnsons and all the rest of them. So I'm not interested in getting somebody else's name up that have not put in the work. Like, if they're only averaging, you know, a certain amount of people watching them, I'm not going to pay attention to those type of people because they're, of course, clout chasing and want the clout. So that's none of my concern. If those big guys that they hold up high as leaders of their particular ideologies don't want no smoke from me, then they lost.
Keep playing games with these white folks. Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep listening to these damn YouTubian Pretendians. Go ahead and see what happens to your life. Tell your kids to go to back to school night. When your kids go to the Black History program, tell them to stand up and tell all they white classmates and white teachers, I'm not from Africa. I was already here. I am a Native American. And then the white folks are going to say, which reservation are you associated with? And you're going to say, North Philly, South Central, Baltimore, DC, Atlanta. Woo! Lord have mercy.